Hello and welcome to another session on grape varieties. This one is on Montepulciano. This is our advanced version. So this is ideal for those of you that are studying your WSET Level 3 and your Level 4 and all equivalents around the world. So if you are looking for a more simpler version, which is maybe for your early studies like WSET Level 2, we do have an intermediate version as well. So let's just go through the basic bit first. So my name is Jimmy Smith, as mentioned, at Wine with Jimmy on Twitter and Instagram. I am the owner and founder of 2 wine schools and also a wine bar in London. They're all listed up there. If you're in London, please come and see us for a class or a glass or a bottle. And it'll be great to see you. #WLWS Virtual. So let's get rocking and rolling about the history of this grape, Montepulciano. We have a first mention of this in the 18th century by Michele Torchia, who is an archivist who was sent ahead for King Ferdinand IV to actually rate wines and chalk up information about certain areas, and it was mentioned by this guy. So a mention in the 18th century, but really its origins have been a bit of a mystery, really, where it really comes from. It was originally thought to be from Toscana, from Tuscany, and perhaps it was a synonym, an alternative grape name of Sangiovese. People that believe this theory are in the firm belief that, you know, this Montepulciano, there is a place called Montepulciano in Tuscany, the town with which the wine Vino Nobile da Montepulciano is produced, which is not anything to do with the grape Montepulciano. But they think there must be some link here, but we have no evidence of that whatsoever. We think, though, because of its genetic diversity within Abruzzo, around the Gran Sasso mountain, it's more likely from there, and specifically the Valpelligna, which is this valley which is just south of the Gran Sasso. So this is a very sort of mountainous part of Abruzzo. It's quite cold, and we think that the grape variety may originate from this area. Next up is, of course, what I've already mentioned. It is not related to the town of Montepulciano in the sort of southeastern of Tuscany, near Montalcino. That is actually a wine, a Vino Nobile da Montepulciano, which is made from Sangiovese. So it is not related to this, although it does share the same name. So Montepulciano today has actually grown a lot. There's over 30,000 hectares of it today. It's overtaken Barbera. It's one of the principal, most important black varieties within Italy. The variety itself is a late ripener. So it really is found, the most northern is around Marche, but everywhere below that. So down towards, of course, Abruzzo, Molise, and even into Puglia. But it needs that warmth and it needs that sunlight to ripen fully. So it is a nice late ripener. It also ripens quite high sugar levels, so that will be converted into kind of quite a lot of alcohol. It's a variety which is very high yielding, and very big steps will need to be taken in the vineyard to curb its production. But there are massive productions in Montepulciano d'Abruzzo. The permissible yield is 100 hectolitres per hectare. It's significant. So, of course, that's why you get some rather simple expressions of this style. So sugars ripen nice and easily. However, they're quite quick. So it is the physiological ripeness, so our stems, our pips, which are quite slow. And this is said to be really the problem with Montepulciano. But in order to get that physiological ripeness, the best place to actually site it, yes, is in places where it's warm, but at some altitude, where you get that cooler growing condition and a slightly longer season. This means that there won't be any green characters from the pips and stems, and you'll actually get full ripeness of the grape, including its structural ripeness, the physiological ripeness, plus the sugar. So the very high-end ones will come from more hilly, mountainous areas. But, however, most is produced going all the way down to the coast of Abruzzo. big swathing area of Montepulciano d'Abruzzo. So these are warm, if not sometimes hot sites where the grapes race along to ripeness, and their physiological ripeness does not get a look in. So therefore, you end up getting this wine that has to be picked quite early, meaning there'll be noticeable green notes from the stems and pips. It is also quite clonally diverse. There is quite a bit of work going into its clones, certainly in the DOCGs like Colline d'Aramane. So there is some certainly better ones being cited to certain areas. Now, in the winery, Montepulciano is often used as a single varietal because it's quite famous for that. In Abruzzo, so Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, you'll find it as a single variety. But it is also blended, and a common blending partner of it is Sangiovese, Jupiter's blood, specifically in Marche, in areas like Offida Rosso, in areas like Conero, Piceno, around Ancona, those kind of areas. There are small amounts of Sangiovese blended into Montepulciano. Adds a bit more sort of elegance, I suppose, but structure at the same time. Montepulciano, the skins are nice and fleshy and full of anthocyanins. So the color and pigmentation here is huge. It's a very sort of bluish, purplish red. So plenty of color to give, certainly in the smaller productions. But the problem, as mentioned on the previous slide for viticultural aspects, is that the real Achilles heel, the real issue is the unripe pips, which are really a big factor when the wine is in a real hot or warm zone. This is often in slightly more premium wines overcounted with oak and new oak, and you can often find this kind of weird green herbal touch along with this plush, rich, sweet oak note. It's a bit of a strange combination, and that's often them covering up the blemishes. It's also made quite a bit of fame for itself for making a Cerasuelo d'Abruzzo. So this is a rosato, a rosé, a pink wine of Abruzzo, which really only with a few hours skin contact, if that, will produce a really colourful rosé that are often more like light reds than actual pink wines. And that's due to all of that anthocyanin content, a huge amount of colour content in the skins. So where do we find this grape variety? So nearly 31,000 hectares available in Italy, making it a very significant grape. I think just below Sangiovese today in its volume. So sizable production in terms of the black grapes. You'll see here that we have a number of key productions. The top map up here is actually of the Marche region, which is famous for whites like Pecorino, Passarina, and Verdicchio. But you will see here that we have the brilliant Conero DOCG and also Rosso Conero, which is from that sort of greenish area on the elbow of Italy on this side. That's Ancona, which means is the Greek establishment, which means elbow. It's that kind of bit that juts out, a lovely bit of a promontory, a bit of a rock. So the Rosso Conero is the more simpler expression, but then Conero is the higher end one, which makes wonderfully complex wines with a majority of Montepulciano. Then at the bottom there is Rosso Piceno, which is actually a more larger area, which pretty much goes all the way around the Conero zone and down towards the Molise border. And the Rosso Piceno is often more well known for making slightly simpler versions and fresh, fruity, floral expressions of Montepulciano, but still very drinkable styles. And then the bottom map at the bottom right is of Abruzzo. So if you have come through and done your level 2, the only thing you really need to know about is this one, which is the large production area of Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, which is that kind of greenish area that covers most of the region. And this is the big yielding, simple wine, often lightly red fruited, a little bit herbal and a little bit floral with fresh acidity. Now, in that same area, you will find Cerasuele d'Abruzzo, which is the rosé, the pink of the production. So quite a unique little production here, being quite gastronomical styles. Then in the north, a quite modern DOCG is the Montepulciano d'Abruzzo Colline Terramane. And this produces a range of styles again, but leaning more towards lower yields, fuller wines with more inherent oak characteristics. So these are often the more darker expressions with more tannic structure and acidity. Very new one, I think this was awarded last year, the Tullum DOCG is a new one for a bit more structure and powerful as well. And also there's Montepulciano down in the Molise region, Molise and Biferno, which is, Biferno is the name of a river, a DOC as well, often multi-blended. You'll find Aglianico in the blend, Sangiovese sometimes as well for those expressions, but nonetheless, very good wines. So really quite a lot going on with it. There's many other IGTs and DOCs as well, but these are some of the more famous ones. What does it taste like? Now, remember, there really are sort of a Jekyll and Hyde with Montepulciano, and the Jekyll is the fact that you have the big production, the high yields of things like Montepulciano d'Abruzzo. If that is the case, then you would expect characteristics which are much more kind of like cherries and plum and sort of herbaceous characters with maybe some violet notes. That is the normal sort of light style. Go to an Italian restaurant, you know, normally the second wine down on the list after the house red is a Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, and it will be normally quite light, easy, fragrant, and nothing that complex. But then, of course, there are conscious producers that want to make more interesting wines, and they will have smaller yields, green harvesting in the vineyard, selection, matching the buds with the vigor of the vine, you know, all the things to really control quality. This will produce a bit more kind of blackberry fruit intermingled with the red fruit. Black pepper is common. Sometimes you'll get this chocolate note, a bit of oak in there as well, because that is commonly used for the things like Colline Terramane, Conero DOCG. And these are usually the DOCGs that will have this. You may have a little bit of floral notes as well, and there might be some very sweet reds in there, but they normally are more powerful, a little bit more Shiraz-like in their character. In terms of the tannins and acids, it's all about the production again. So with those more concentrated styles, you'll find quite high tannins with quite good acidities as well. Whereas on the light styles with the big productions, normally high acids and quite soft tannins, and alcohols will vary as well, but they tend to be kind of moderate to high. So that is the Montepulciano grape variety. It is not that much dived into in your level 3 certificate. This is more information than you will need to know for your level 3, but this is especially useful for those of you studying your diploma, WSET level 4, and equivalents around the world. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something from this. If you have any comments or questions, please comment them in the YouTube below. So that's below the description. Or get in touch at Wine with Jimmy at West London Wine, which is the school in London, Fulham, and also South London in Greenwich, Streatham in London, and our wine bar. When you're next in London, please come and see us for a class or a glass or a bottle. Thank you so much for your time. Bye.